This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Eat it? And Ling Jian was shocked and said in fear, First Island Master, what did you say you wanted to eat? A sense of uneasiness spread in his heart. He had already seen the First Island Master's huge dragon head slowly open its mouth and drool. No, don't do that, First Island Master. Without waiting for the First Island Master's reply, and Ling Jian already knew his fate. He was so scared that he could no longer stand steadily. One of his left ankle bones twisted, and he fell to the ground on the spot. His whole body trembled and he cried until he was in a daze. Didn't you say that you'd help me take revenge with your life? The First Island Master's eyes burst out with a cold light and he shouted, Are you lying to me? No, it's just that you're teasing me. And Ling Jian broke out in a cold sweat and shivered. It's just that Master has raised me for more than 20 years and I still haven't repaid Master. I can't bear to leave just like this. You are indeed a filial child. If your master knows that you have given your body to me, he will definitely be proud of you, the First Island Master said. Let me see Master for the very last time. I want to bid farewell to his old man. And Ling Jian was so scared that he couldn't speak. His lips were trembling, and his body was trembling. In the end, he even burst into tears. Woo, Master, save me. No need. The First Island Master refused. A huge claw appeared in the air and grabbed Ling Jian. It threw him into its mouth and started chewing, making a chi-gu sound that made one's teeth ache. And Ling Jian didn't even have the chance to scream before he was completely chewed up. The sound of bones being chewed continued for a while before the huge dragon head swallowed it. It slowly closed its eyes and returned to its human form. As expected of an 8th-tier alchemist. It's a great supplement to me. The First Island Master seemed to have absorbed all of Ling Jian's nutrients. He suddenly opened his eyes, and his dark green eyes flickered with a dim light. He stuck out his wet tongue and licked his lips, as if he had an endless aftertaste. In the small courtyard of Xiankong Island, in the profound artifact space. In his despair, Ruan Shichuan was struck into the ground by the lightning. It was unknown if he was still alive. In the distance, Yan Shushu's heart was also filled with despair. Under the pressure of Jing Yongye's every move, he no longer had the strength to fight back. He continuously begged for mercy, Lord Yongye, I know I was wrong, and I truly regret it. Please spare my dog life. Bah. Don't insult creatures like dogs. Jing Yongye spat disdainfully, and the power of his palm became even fiercer. He completely forced Yan Shushu to his death, and every move he made was with his full strength. Right, I'm not even as good as a dog. Your Excellency, killing me is too demeaning of your status. On account of our acquaintance, please spare me. With Yan Shushu's strength, if he had used all his strength, even if he couldn't defeat Jing Yongye, he wouldn't have been defeated so quickly. But he knew that his defeat was certain, so he simply didn't have the heart to continue fighting. He wholeheartedly begged for mercy, so in a few moves, he had already fallen into a dead end, tears streaming down his old face. The human race's martial artists are indeed different from the rest. You've broadened my horizons. Run Xiang couldn't help but mock loudly, looking at the crowd with contempt. Shui Xian was also puzzled. The opponent obviously won't let him go. Why is he still begging for mercy, she asked. I can't answer Princess Shui Xian's question, Run Xiang said with a smile. This is probably an excellent quality that flows in the blood of human martial artists. When Yunxiao heard that, he turned around and said sarcastically, the people of my race are begging for mercy before they die. It's better than the people of the sea race activating the power of their bloodline before they die and turning back into beasts to self-destruct. Run Xiang angrily said. How can your clan's fear of death be compared to the fearlessness of my clan's warriors? Yunxiao snorted contemptuously and said slowly, in the face of death, one will rely on his own intelligence to survive, while the other will degenerate into a sea beast with no intelligence and self-destruct. Which do you think is stronger? This? Run Xiang was dumbfounded. They were clearly two completely different qualities. One was afraid of death and begging for mercy, while the other was brave and unafraid of sacrifice. But, the comparison made by Yunxiao was completely different, and he could not refute it at once. Shui Xian was also stunned. She nodded gently and said, "That sounds reasonable." Run Xiang's face darkened and he said coldly, "Princess Shui Xian, don't be fooled by this person. His mouth is unrivaled. If there were levels for mouth skills, this person would already be in the 10 Directions Divine Realm." Although those humans were also hostile to Run Xiang, they all felt that what he said made sense, and many of them nodded in agreement. Suddenly, the ground in the distance cracked open with a bang, and Ruan Shichuan crawled out with a dejected face. He knelt down on the spot and kowtowed, "Lord Yunxiao, please spare me. I'm willing to be your slave or maidservant. Please don't kill me." All the human warriors blushed. Yunxiao had just verbally disrespected them a little, but he was immediately embarrassed by this man. Even Baiming Kongtian couldn't help but scold angrily, "Ruan Shichuan. Some of your deaths are lighter than a feather, while some are heavier than Mount Tai. Are you still a martial emperor when you're so spineless? Don't insult the title of a martial sovereign of the 9 heavens." Ruan Shichuan looked at Baiming Kongtian, his eyes burning with anger. He gritted his teeth and roared, "Baiming Kongtian, you old bastard. You didn't help me and even made sarcastic remarks. I won't let you go even if I become a ghost." "Humph." Baiming Kongtian snorted coldly and said, "Saving a coward like you is simply dirtying my hands. If you don't save me, I'll die anyway, so I'll drag you down with me first." Ruan Shichuan furiously rushed up from the ground and roared as he rushed towards Baiming Kongtian. His eyes were bloodshot, and he was baring his fangs and brandishing his claws. His face was almost deformed. Everyone was stunned for a moment. The one who wanted to kill him was Yunxiao, so why did his anger turn to Baiming Kongtian? This was truly a strange, incomprehensible, and crazy world. Baiming Kongtian was also infuriated. He roared in shock and anger, "Bastard. I don't have any grudges with you." Ruan Shichuan's eyes were filled with derision as he laughed. "No grudges? If you don't save me and just watch me get killed, I'll kill you." His aura instantly swelled to its peak as he pounced towards Baiming Kongtian, as if he wanted to take him down with him. Baiming Kongtian's face was filled with anger. A cold aura bloomed from his body. He slowly raised his right hand and struck out a palm strike. A bone-chilling palm print appeared in the air and slammed ruthlessly onto Ruan Shichuan's body. It was like a huge mountain pressing down on him, completely suppressing the monkey. Bang! Unlike Yunxiao's previous thunderbolt, this palm directly penetrated his body and shattered him into countless pieces in the air, turning him into countless ice cubes that fell to the ground. "Humph. You really don't know your place." After Baiming Kongtian killed Ruan Shichuan with a single palm strike, the anger in his body slowly subsided, and his face was filled with contempt and disdain. Everyone also secretly shook their heads. A master of the Red Moon City of a generation had fallen just like that. Moreover, he had made a fool of himself before he died, which was a disgrace. Even Ilechi felt embarrassed. He kept feeling that everyone was staring at him, and his face blushed unconsciously. Elder Kongtian, Yunxiao suddenly said, "Lord Ruan Shichuan of Red Moon City has no enmity with you. Why did you kill him?" Everyone's heart skipped a beat, and their eyes flickered as they began to ponder the chill in Yunxiao's words. Baiming Kongtian's face also darkened. He said coldly, "Li Yunxiao, what do you mean by that?" "Nothing," Yunxiao said with a faint smile. "I don't mean anything. The Red Moon City and the Baiming Dark Palace were both part of the 7 super forces, one in the east and the other in the north. They could be considered allies. A 9 heavens martial sovereign of the Red Moon City was in a fit of anger before his death, so it's normal for him to be muddle-headed. However, you killed him without even asking anything. I'm just afraid that this matter would affect Beiming Dark Palace badly. Everyone's heart trembled, and they thought, that's right, Ruan Shichuan had only gone mad before his death. This didn't warrant a death sentence, right? Yunxiao has a reason to kill him, but what right do you, an elder of Beiming Dark Palace, have to kill the people of Red Moon City? Beiming Kongtian's face fell. It was perfectly normal for him to kill Ruan Shichuan under such circumstances. But, after Yunxiao's analysis, it was true that he had made a mistake. This kind of matter could be big or small. If they seized this point and investigated it in depth, it would really be a big trouble that would affect the relationship between the two sects. Li Yunxiao. Beiming Lifeng also said angrily, don't you try to sow discord. My Beiming Dark Palace has always had a good relationship with the Red Moon City, and it's not something that can be easily broken by a few words from you. Good friends? Yunxiao laughed. Always good friends? Then why did you kill him? Everyone turned to look at Beiming Lifeng, all of them confused. That's right, since they've always been on good terms, why did he kill him? This. Beiming Lifeng's forehead was also covered in cold sweat, and he didn't know how to explain. He suddenly had an idea and said to Lechi, Lord Lechi, you saw what happened just now. Elder Kongtian had no choice but to kill him. He was just going with the flow. Lechi's expression flickered, and he immediately became nervous. He was also resentful of Beiming Dark Palace for not helping him, but if he were to criticize them now, he was afraid that he would be in danger during the rest of the journey. However, his current attitude was equivalent to the attitude of the Red Moon City. If he didn't criticize them, wouldn't that mean that he had to bow down to Beiming Dark Palace and let Ruan Shichuan be killed for nothing? In fact, he didn't care about Ruan Shichuan's death. What he cared about was the Beiming Dark Palace's attitude towards them. He was afraid that he would become the second Ruan Shichuan. He thought for a while, rolled his eyes, and said, I saw what happened just now clearly. As for whether it was right or wrong, it is difficult to judge for a while. I will definitely report it to Tang Chang when I go back. Beiming Lifeng's face darkened, and he secretly cursed the old fox. They all understood Lechi's meaning, which was to say that it was up to him to decide whether it was right or wrong, and that he would decide after he returned. Everyone on the scene was a sly old fox. Those itinerant martial artists were relatively innocent, but these experts in the sect were all scheming experts. They immediately understood Lechi's idea. Humph. Beiming Kongtian snorted and said, then I'll have to trouble Lord Lechi to explain the whole story to Tang Chang. I was indeed a little impulsive just now. Seeing that Beiming Kongtian had admitted his mistake, Lechi was secretly delighted, but he still put on a serious face and said, don't worry, none of us are willing to let this happen, but it's already happened and there's no turning back. My condolences, everyone. Everyone also sighed and shook their heads, looking very sad. Shui Xian asked in confusion, Run Xiang, why can't I understand what they're saying? It seems that they were all very sad about the death of that person just now, but it was precisely because they didn't save him that he died just now. So why are they sad? Everyone's faces turned red. This little girl was completely ignorant of the world's affairs, and her child's words carried no harm. She directly exposed their hypocrisy, and all of them lost face. This is the intelligence they claim to have. We don't understand it. Run Xiang couldn't help but laugh. Beiming Lifeng glared at him and explained in a gentle voice, Princess Shui Xian, don't listen to this demon's nonsense. This is the most basic etiquette of our human race. This is a form of respect and remembrance for the dead, or in other words, mourning. Yes, it's mourning. The rest of the warriors also chimed in, young Master Lifeng is right. Lord Shichuan has unfortunately passed away, we must cheer up. Shui Xian was getting more and more confused, her face was completely lost, but, that man begged you to save him just now, but you didn't do it. She raised her hand and pointed at Yan Shushu, who was on the verge of death, and said, he's almost dead now. Are you guys going to mourn for him later? Everyone's mouth was wide open, not knowing how to answer. On the other hand, Xiang held his stomach and laughed endlessly, his eyes full of contempt and ridicule for everyone. Cough, cough. Yunxiao also felt ashamed. He coughed a few times and said, "He won't die." He shouted, "Lord Yongya, please stop. We still have to hand him over to the Xiankong Island." On the other side, Jing Yongya's killing intent had risen, and Yan Shushu was already on the verge of death. After hearing Yunxiao's words, a fierce look flashed across his face, and he pointed a finger directly at his opponent's lower abdomen. Bang! A muffled sound came from Yan Shushu's dantian. His entire sea of qi exploded, and his body let out a hissing sound as his yuan power was completely drained.
Ah!
Yan Shushu screamed in pain, his eyes full of despair. His martial arts foundation had been destroyed. He had turned from a martial emperor powerhouse into a cripple in an instant. He was even worse than an ordinary mortal. The physical and mental injuries overlapped, and he fainted instantly. Jing Yongya dragged him over like a dead dog and threw him at Yunxiao's feet. Only then did he breathe a long sigh of relief. He felt much more relaxed now that he had avenged his great hatred. "Li Yunxiao, how dare you!" Suddenly, a shout came from outside. A ray of light flew in. Zhao Wenjuan appeared in front of him in an instant. His eyes flickered with boundless killing intent as he stared at him coldly. Everyone's hearts trembled, thinking that the main character had finally arrived. Baiming Lifeng was overjoyed. He hurriedly stepped forward and said, "Mr. Wenjuan, your beloved disciple was injured by Li Yunxiao alone, and it has nothing to do with the rest of us. You can kill or hit me however you like, there's no need to give us face." "Oh. Li Yunxiao, what else do you have to say?" Zhao Wenjuan's body exploded with a murderous aura, and the surrounding temperature instantly dropped. Yunxiao's pupils constricted as he said coldly, "Your disciple was incited by someone, and that's why he offended me. Now, the instigator has been punished by me and is at Mr. Wenjuan's disposal. If teacher is still not satisfied, then we can do whatever we want." Zhao Wenjuan glanced at Yan Shushu, who was lying on the ground like a dead dog, and laughed in disdain. Randomly getting a dead dog to report? How can there be such a good thing in this world? Yunxiao crossed his arms and stood quietly in the sky as he said, "I've already told you. You can do whatever you want." He had a fearless and indifferent look, which made Zhao Wenjuan fly into a rage. He gritted his teeth and said, "Good. I'll return the favor you did to my beloved disciple." Zhao Wenjuan's aura turned cold and he said in a cold voice, "Don't say I didn't give you a chance. Since we're both 9th tier alchemists, as long as you can beat me in soul power, I'll let this matter go. Otherwise, humph." Yunxiao still looked indifferent, but his eyes grew colder as he snorted and said, "Please." With this declaration of war, the atmosphere between the two of them instantly became extremely abnormal. Other than the extreme cold, the space began to twist and twist like a fried dough twist. Everyone's expression changed drastically, and they all retreated, afraid of being drawn into it. Both Baiming Lifeng and Xiang grew nervous, staring at their every move, hoping that Yunxiao would be cut into pieces. However, the two of them didn't move at all. They maintained a fixed distance from each other, but the space around them kept changing, twisting into various shapes, which made everyone dumbfounded. Sky Feather Wind Chant. Zhao Wenjuan was the first to move. His hands formed a seal and he shouted. The space around him suddenly tightened, as if it was being suppressed by something, and then exploded with a bang, sending out countless feather-like spiritual attacks that drifted toward Yunxiao like snow. "Good. That's the true Sky Feather Wind Chant, your disciple's display is just dog shit." Yunxiao praised as he immediately made a hand seal. An invisible force rippled out from his body like a layer of water film, sticking to his skin lightly. The feathers that filled the sky fell one by one and directly stuck to the water film. They were blocked the moment they stabbed into his body, unable to hurt him. In an instant, Yunxiao's entire body was covered with white feathers, making him look like a big white goose. A cold smile appeared at the corner of Zhao Wenjuan's mouth and he said, "If that's all you have, then everything is over." Yunxiao's face flickered, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Zhao Wenjuan's hand seals changed, and he said in a cold voice, "Explode." Boom. The space shook violently, but there were no elemental energy fluctuations. Instead, an extremely powerful spiritual impact spread in the air. The white feathers that were manifested from soul power all exploded at this moment, turning into spiritual vortexes. Not only did they bombard in all directions, but they also fused together and grew larger and larger.
Ah.
Yunxiao let out a miserable cry as he fell directly into the huge mental vortex. His body twisted and turned as the space changed, and he held his head with both hands as he screamed with all his strength, blood oozing out of his 7 orifices. Baiming Lifeng and Ren Xiang were both overjoyed, unable to suppress the excitement in their hearts. Ren Xiang even conjured the eye of the true dragon and looked over. Sure enough, Yunxiao was at a disadvantage, and everything he saw was real. He could not help but laugh out loud. The battle between alchemists was extremely dangerous, even more so than the martial arts of warriors. A single mistake could lead to the loss of one's spiritual altar, and in the worst-case scenario, one's soul would be injured, or one's memory would be lost, turning one into a complete fool. It's nothing. Zhao Wenjuan sneered. This is the outcome of you hurting my disciple. I'll punish you. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. He recalled what the first island master had said. It seemed that this person was still useful and could not be killed. Humph, he snorted coldly and said, "This time, we'll stop here. If there's a next time, I'll kill you without mercy." With a point of his finger, the mental vortex immediately disappeared, and Yunxiao's constantly twisting body finally returned to its original state. He lay quietly in the void, motionless. From a distance, his face was pale, and blood was oozing out of his pores. Baiming Lifeng suddenly shouted, "Mr. Wenjuan. There's no need to show mercy. There's no need to give us face. Just kill him." Baiming Kongtian frowned and revealed an unhappy expression. He stared at Zhao Wenjuan vigilantly. If Zhao Wenjuan dared to kill him, he would definitely save him. Zhao Wenjuan ignored the crowd and just said coldly to Yunxiao, "Get up, don't play dead. That attack just now only severely injured your soul. It's not enough to kill you." He waited quietly for a while, but when he saw Yunxiao still hovering there motionlessly, he frowned and his eyes flickered with confusion. He took a step forward carefully and slowly, because a duel between alchemists was too risky, and any negligence could be fatal. The doubt in his eyes grew deeper and deeper. He kept feeling that something was wrong.
Ah.
Zhao Wenjuan suddenly cried out as he looked at Yunxiao, who was floating in the air, in horror. That was not Yunxiao, but himself, lying quietly in the sky, bleeding from all 7 apertures. How did this happen? All of a sudden, Zhao Wenjuan felt the world spin. He, who had been quietly floating in the air, slowly stood up, his face equally terrified. His body trembled violently as he knew that he had been hit. He was a 9th-tier alchemist, so how could he be hit by someone's mental power without being aware of it? But the truth was right in front of him, and he had to believe it. Fortunately, Zhao Wenjuan's mental fortitude was strong enough. He instantly woke up and quickly formed a seal with both hands. An imprint slowly rose in his hands and he roared, "Break!" An extremely powerful force rippled out from his body, and the surrounding space kept changing as if it had been washed by heavy rain. An intense pain came from his head, and the illusion was broken. He returned to his real state, and as expected, he was bleeding from all 7 holes and his face was pale. His face turned ashen, and his body trembled violently. He felt a lingering fear in his heart. If I didn't show mercy just now, I'm afraid I would have been completely killed by my ultimate move. To be kind to others, to be kind to yourself. What's going on? Everyone was shocked and looked over in horror. To their dismay, they found that the battle between alchemists was so strange that they could not understand it at all.